Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Vrindavan Jasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tita Vanachapavadi Jamuna Tira Vanachapavadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Vrindavan Gopijana Vallabha Vrindavan Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tibra Vanachambhari Jamuna Tibra Vanachambhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Vrindavan Gopijana Vallabha Vrindavan Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamunati Brava Vanachambhari Jamunati Brava Vanachavapade. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Bhavam Bhade. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Bhavam Bhade. Janatilira Pravishtam Vishnu Pad Astu Tirada Shri Shimadas Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Founder Charya ISKCON Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki, ISKCON Guru Vrinda Ki, Prem Zidiko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Veta Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram Mandir Ki, Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki, Nitya Gopramanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So good morning again. Welcome to your Srimad Bhagavatam class. I just wanted to take a moment and introduce myself to all of you. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for the beautiful garland. And to thank all of you, especially the devotees who are hosting all of us. I'm visiting here from the Dallas community, Dallas, Texas, Sri Sri Radhakulachandji Dham. My name's Narottam Das. I'm a disciple of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami. And for those of you who don't know me, my godbrothers and I, like this godbrother right here, Dalal Nitai, we worked together under Tamal Krishna Goswami in China for many years, distributing books and spreading Krishna consciousness there, including Taiwan, where this young lady's from back here, Radhananda. I joined in 1979 in June, and my Guru Maharaj told me I got to see the end of the wave of enthusiasm that was created by Srila Prabhupada's personal association. In those days where I joined in Chicago, the Chicago Temple was the largest book distribution temple in the world. Some of the devotees who are here, like Bhuvaneshwar Prabhu, and there's others, we were all together there at that time, and but each week we were distributing one 2-foot semi-tractor trailer. In those days, the BBT had its own semi, and we would distribute one of those tractor trailers each week. We were distributing about $100,000 worth of books each week at that time, and making a lot of devotees at that time. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in the class. But then my Guru Maharaj, he came here. He was requested initially by Srila Prabhupada to go to China. Many of you might know the story, but he was in Mayapur, and there were some complaints against him because at that time he was leading a large book distribution party called the Radha Damodar Party. The Radha Damodar Party, they were giving Srila Prabhupada cash. After they had 6 Greyhound buses and 40 maxi vans and 140 men going out each day distributing books, 160 men. And they were giving Srila Prabhupada cash each month, $100,000. And for the Christmas marathon, they would give Prabhupada $250,000. And that money was used primarily for this temple, the Juhu Beach temple in Mayapur, but for many projects throughout the world. For 5 years they did that. So my Guru Maharaj, he used to go to temples and their party was really fired up. Like they would dance ecstatically and have big kirtans, and then my Guru Maharaj would give really heavy lectures about surrendering to Krishna. In fact, if you go to his tape ministry or on his website, you can see a whole series of lectures. They're called the Absolute Surrender Series. And that was a term actually coined by Srila Prabhupada, absolute surrender. So I'll just give you one quick story, and then I'll go to the verse here. And so at that time, they were in the Atlanta temple. And in those days, the brahmacharis, they would dance so ecstatically that they would go all the way across the temple room, back and forth, but they would go so fast that when they got to the end of the temple room, they would jump up in the air and their feet would land up on the wall about 5 or 6 feet off the ground. And they would jump off the wall and then land on the ground again and then dance across the temple, and then on the other side they'd jump. And you could see footprints on the walls sometimes about, the height of your head. So, and in those days when he would go to the temples, all the brahmacharis would see all these other brahmacharis and sannyasis, and they'd think, what am I doing in this temple? I should be out there with these brahmacharis and sannyasis preaching. And so it was kind of an unofficial thing, but my Guru Maharaj, he told me that he felt that's how ISKCON should be set up. That brahmacharis and sannyasis should be in the temple working and preaching, and grihastas should go out and become financially independent and help support the movement. Anyway, I'll talk about that later. So on this particular occasion, the temple president, he ran into the office, the temple president's office, and he started calling the GBC. Vedaguya Prabhu might remember some of this. And what ended up happening was, there was one devotee, he was a very famous dancer, his name was H.G.Narottam Prabhu. If any of you ever look at these old films, you'll see him. He's an amazing dancer. But so the temple president was in the office calling GBC, Tamal Krishna Goswami is here with the brahmacharis, and he's going to take all my men. What should I do? And then right at that moment, Janardhan, he crashed right through the wall of the temple room, right into the temple president's office, and landed on his desk. And all the brahmacharis were looking through the hole in the wall. They're saying, Nittagor Haribo, Haribo. Anyway, so all of that was brought to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada made a decision that many of the temple presidents were complaining to Srila Prabhupada about my Guru Maharaj for taking the brahmacharis. He didn't officially take anybody, but it was kind of like, well, Prabhu, if you really want to join this ecstatic book distribution party, if we see you out in the corner, when the bus is leaving, we couldn't help ourselves but to pick you up. Anyway, so one day they were in Mayapur, it was the GBC meetings, and Srila Prabhupada, he sent, at first he had a meeting with my Guru Maharaj, and he was saying, all the temple presidents are complaining about you. What do you think about this? So, he put his case before Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was, oh yeah, I remember this now. He called, okay, let me give this just to you perfectly. So he had a meeting in his office with my Guru Maharaj, and he said, so what should I do? So my Guru Maharaj, in his mind, he was thinking, well, what do you want me to do? Send me to, make me leave the Radha Damodar party? We're giving so much money. We're distributing so many books. So in his mind, he was thinking, well, what do you want to do? Send me to the moon? He was thinking like that, sitting before Srila Prabhupada. And then, what he said, well, what do you want to do, Prabhupada? Do you want to send me, instead of saying to the moon, because he thought, oh, this is very offensive. He said, what do you want to do? Send me to China? So the next morning, after that meeting, Trivikram Maharaj came to Mangalarti. My Guru Maharaj was in Mangalarti. And how many of you know His Holiness Trivikram Maharaj? He's a big, tall American. He's a sannyasi. Srila Prabhupada said that he would do anything Prabhupada asked. When he was asked, what is Trivikram Maharaj's qualification, Srila Prabhupada said, he will do anything that I ask. So Prabhupada sent Trivikram Maharaj, and he's kind of an ominous person. And so he tapped on the shoulder of my Guru Maharaj, and he turned around. And my Guru Maharaj was no lightweight. Perhaps you could say safely he was one of the strongest, if not the strongest leader in our movement at that time. And he turned around to Trivikram Maharaj and he said, I'm not going. And Trivikram Maharaj told him, Prabhupada wants to see you. He said, I'm not going. He said, Prabhupada wants to see you now. So he went to the Prabhupada's room, and Prabhupada was putting on his tilak, and he had, in those days, a lot of devotees, especially, I mean, you could see pictures of Srila Prabhupada. Everybody had these small, compact mirrors, and everyone would put on their tilak with these compact mirrors. So the base of it sits in your hand, and then you hold the mirror part with your fingers. You'll see pictures of Prabhupada doing this. And Prabhupada was putting on tilak like this, and Prabhupada said to him, I think it is a good idea. It was Krishna speaking through you. I want you to go to China. He's putting on his tilak, looking in the mirror, like that. So he started to, argue with Prabhupada. He started to stay to Srila Prabhupada. But Prabhupada, the Radha Damodar party, all the books, my men, And as soon as he started to say something back to Prabhupada, he told me Prabhupada's hand started shaking. He's becoming so angry. And as he spoke more and more, Prabhupada finally put down the mirror and he said, you have two services in this movement. You can sit down here in Mayapur and chant Hare Krishna, or you can go to China. And my Guru Maharaj said at that point, he could realize that Prabhupada was everything for him. He could realize that there was actually no service except his relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Everything that he was, everything that he was doing was dependent on his relationship with Srila Prabhupada. So later, I was very fortunate. I was 17 years old, and my Guru Maharaj had come here to Vrindavan, and at that time, the GBC had asked him to come and fulfill Prabhupada's request to go to China. So he went to Prabhupada's room at the Radha Damodar temple, and he was chanting every day 125 rounds, begging Prabhupada if he had any impurities within his heart to remove those impurities so that he could preach and that he could lead our movement. So I was reading Chaitanya Charitamrita at that time. Somehow, and still today, Chaitanya Charitamrita just so sweet. It's just so amazing to read any of Prabhupada's books, but the Chaitanya Charitamrita is just astonishing to me. And I was reading it, and there Prabhupada kept emphasizing the importance of the guru-disciple relationship. So I went to His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj. And just to give you a little idea, I was 17, and Giriraj Maharaj was 30 years old. And my Guru Maharaj was 31. And I went to Giriraj Maharaj and he said, I actually had the chance to call my Guru Maharaj. He at that time he was traveling here to India, and he gave me some beautiful personal instruction. And then when I conveyed that to Giriraj Maharaj, he said, let me take you to Dallas where most of your God brothers and God sisters are. So I traveled with Giriraj Maharaj from Chicago to Dallas. And in Dallas, I started going on Sankirtan with the idea that I would collect the money and come here and meet my Guru Maharaj in Vrindavan, and to work with him and to go to China with him. And so he was called back by the GBC back to the United States. So we had a big greeting, and then for him, big kirtan, and he called me up to the Vyasa-san, and he said, I heard you were planning to come to India to be with me. I said, that's right. And he said to me, now India has come to you. And he took me with him, and he ended up bringing me to China. And I lived there for many years, a number of years. I wanted to share that with you, just a little bit about my background, because I know many of you probably don't know me. And I'm married. I've been married for 24 years. I have 2 children, a daughter who's out of college, Surat Rangini, and a son, Madan Gopal. And I'm working in the United States. My wife and I have a large trailer with a kitchen inside of it, Krishna's Cuisine. You can see us on YouTube if you Google Krishna's Cuisine. And we travel around the United States at big music festivals, and we distribute prasadam and books and cultivate devotees like that. Okay, so I'm going to start here with the verse, and we can discuss the verse today. So please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sabutya Pancha Janyahayam. Ajena Parishanvita Putran Ajan Nayad Daksha Savalashvan Sahashrina Sabuya Panchajanyayam Ajena Parishantvita Putran Ajanyaya Daksha Shavalashvan Sahashrina. Prabhu. Sabuya Panchajanyaya Ajena Parishanvita Putrana Janira Daksha Sabuya Panchajanyaya Ajena Parishanvita Putrana Janaya Daksha Savalasvan Sahashrina Sabuya Panchajanyaya Ajena Parishanvita Putrana Janaya Daksha Savalasvan Sahashrina. Ladies? Sabuya Panchajanyaya Ajena Parishanvita Putrana Janyaya Daksha Swahala Sahashrana Sabuya Panchajanyaya Ajena Parishanvita Putrana Janaya Daksha Prajapati Daksha. Bhuya. Again. Panchajanyayam. In the womb of his wife, Akshini, or Panchajani. Ajena, by Lord Brahma. Parishanvita, being pacified. Putran, sons. Anjanayat, begot. Daksha, Prajapati Daksha. Savalashvan, named the Savalashvas. Sahasrina, numbering 1,000. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. When Prajapati Daksha was lamenting for his lost children, Lord Brahma pacified him with instructions. And thereafter, Daksha begot 1,000 more children in the womb of his wife, Panchajani. This time, his sons were known as the Savalashvas. Purport. Prajapati Daksha was so named because he was very expert in begetting children. The word Daksha means expert. First, he begot 10,000 children in the womb of his wife. And when the children were lost, when they returned home back to Godhead, he begot another set of children known as the Savalasvas. Prajapati Daksha is very expert in begetting children. And Narada Muni is very expert in delivering all conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, the materialistic experts do not agree with the spiritual expert Narada Muni. But this does not mean that Narada Muni will give up his engagement of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Om Ganatamanandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Sanmilyatam Jaina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jaina Bhutale Swaham Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. So do you know anyone who's had 10,000 children? You have to be really expert. I've got 2 kids, and it takes everything I've got. I can't imagine 10,000 children. Jai Shri Shigonita. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Jai Krishna Balaram. Jai Desham. Here in this verse, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he is describing Prajapati Daksha as materialistic. And he's describing Narada Muni as a spiritual expert. Does that mean the Grihastas are materialists and the Brahmacharis are spiritually expert? Maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. Actually, the Grihastas are meant to be Brahmacharis also. Grihasta Brahmacharis. Srila Prabhupada, he explains the basic difference between a materialist and a spiritualist is that a materialistic person tries to become happy with things that are external. And a spiritualist becomes happy internally. If I ask all of you, what is the goal of this Krishna consciousness movement? What will you say? If somebody walks up to you, yes?
Revive our relationship with Krishna.
To revive our relationship with Krishna. Yes, that's true. That's true. Anyone else? What is the goal of our Krishna consciousness movement? What's that? To have love with Krishna. Yes, Prabhu. Vaishnava? Vaishnava? Guru Krishna.
To please Krishna.
To please Krishna. Yes, these are all correct. Now, when Srila Prabhupada was asked, what is the goal of the Krishna consciousness movement? Prabhupada said, it is to become happy. Ananda. I work a lot with children over the years. I had a small manufacturing company for early learning educational materials. When you ask a child, what does it mean to be happy? They'll say, to have fun. You see? This is our basic point. This is the basic theme of the Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is explaining that if you try to become happy with something that's material, the problem is that everything material is temporary. So if you try to become happy with something that's temporary, your happiness is also, temporary. So when your happiness comes to an end, how do you feel? Terrible. Anybody else want to comment on that one? If you ask a kid, they'll say, unhappy. But Krishna explains, yes, materialism creates a condition where we become morose. We become sad. We become frustrated, angry, depressed, and delusioned. So is that how life's supposed to be, guys? Then do any of you wake up in the morning and think at, 8:30, this morning I want to become frustrated and angry? You don't wake up like that? And this is actually the difference between our Krishna consciousness movement and religions in general. Prabhupada explains that religion primarily means faith. And faith can change. It's temporary. But Krishna consciousness focuses on our intrinsic nature, Sanatan Dharma. Right? Dharma is kindly loosely thrown around on Indian television and, to mean religion or duty. But Srila Prabhupada explains from the meaning. He explains the meaning from the Vikosh Sanskrit dictionary. The meaning of Dharma is the intrinsic quality of something. That quality which does not change. That is Dharma. Not faith. You see? Just like the intrinsic quality of fire is heat and light, or the intrinsic quality of water is liquidity, that it's liquid. So the intrinsic quality of each and every one of us, it's the quality of service. You see? Service. Just like when you guys help somebody, when you Prabhus, when you Matajis, when you help somebody else, when you do something for somebody else, how do you feel? You feel good, right? That's our intrinsic nature. And when we direct that to Krishna, that is our eternal constitutional position. You see? When we talk about Krishna consciousness, generally we talk about the big picture, right? We have a new big temple in Mayapur that we're building, the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. We talk about our big projects. But actually, if you look here in the Bhagavatam, what you'll find is that Prabhupada is emphasizing all the little things throughout the day. Because if we can make all those little things Krishna conscious, the big picture will become Krishna conscious. All right, I'm going to give you a very nice example. I was in the temple room here yesterday at Mangalarti. There was an Indian lady, and I think she was with her daughter. They may be devotees or congregational members. She was dressed in a sari, They were very sharp. They looked very intelligent and very cultured. So then 2 of our Gurukul boys came through the crowd, and they were pushing through the crowd, okay, to come over and see Radhesham. Usually I move from Gaur-Nitai to Krishna Balaram to Radhesham. So I was there in front of Radhesham's altar. And so the 2 boys came. They may have been 6 or 7 years old. And they were pushing their way through the crowd. Everybody's kind of tight, you know. And the first person they pushed was the girl. The girl may have been 17 years old, right? So it was like her mom and daughter. The mom was maybe 40, 35, and the girl was 17. So one of the boys pushes the mother. I'm sorry, the daughter. And the first thing the daughter does is she turns around and she's upset because the boy kind of shoved her hard, you know. He was pushing his way. And the mom realized what was happening, and she saw her daughter was upset, and she took the boy and she immediately hugged the boy. And then there was another boy. There were 2 of them. And she hugged the boy, and she brought the boy in front of her. We were very close to the rope, so that the boy could see Radhesham. And then her daughter, seeing her do that, embraced the other boy and let the other boy stand in front of her. And the boys were so happy because these ladies showed a little bit of love and a little bit of concern for their Krishna consciousness. Isn't that beautiful? So that's what I'm talking about, these little things throughout the day. And that's why our relationships and our service to one another, to the guests that come here, to our family members, and to everyone and anyone, you see, is really so important. Srila Prabhupada, he described the nectar of devotion as the law book for our movement. Now that's very interesting, isn't it? Because if you read the nectar of devotion, the entire book is nothing but relationships. The entire book is simply describing relationships. You see? So, the point that I'm trying to make is that it comes down to our basic love, appreciation, and service. And even the smallest gestures of love will spread this movement like wildfire. People come in this temple from all over the world, but especially across India, and now I can safely say, especially from Russia. Right? Previously, our acharyas brought so many devotees here from Bengal, but now our acharyas are bringing so many devotees from Russia. You see? There was a famous acharya. He came here years ago for Srila Prabhupada's appearance day. He's a sannyasi. He's the leader of the Madhavacharya sect in South India. We're coming in that line, though there are differences between the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who are followers of Madhavacharya, and the Tattvavadis. You can read this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Lila, chapter 9, where Lord Chaitanya is touring South India. But the Madhavacharya leader, he came here, and the devotees asked him to speak about Srila Prabhupada. And what he said is that in his eyes, according to his estimation, Srila Prabhupada is greater than Lord Shiva. Now, how can they say that? Everybody in India is worshiping Lord Shiva. Right? How can you say that Srila Prabhupada is greater than Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is Param Vaishnava, Shambhu. So the Acharya, what he explained, he said the reason he could say that is because Lord Shiva was able to bring down the Ganges river upon his head and allow the Ganges to cross India to liberate the conditioned souls. He said, but Srila Prabhupada, he was able to bring down the entire ocean of love of God from Goloka Vrindavan and inundate the entire world. Srila Prabhupada ki. Now Srila Prabhupada, he speaks about how materialistic people also have great achievements. Right? No one can deny that. I just flew here on a new Boeing 777 and it's quite amazing actually. Right? But what we have to understand is that our acharyas have achieved something great spiritually. There's a difference. Sometimes materialistic people will argue about material desire being natural. I say it's natural. Sense gratification is natural. But what Krishna is emphasizing in the Gita is that there are two energies functioning here. There is Parashakti and Aparashakti. There is material energy and spiritual energy. So when we speak about something being natural, which nature are we talking about? Something material can be natural, but there are things that are spiritually natural. There's a difference. Now I started this class talking about Srila Prabhupada mentioning how happiness is the goal of Krishna consciousness, to become happy. What Srila Prabhupada emphasizes again and again is this philosophy of achinta bhed abheda tattva, that there is an inconceivable simultaneous oneness and difference between us and Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead. And as you all know, right, the simple example of the drop of ocean water. The drop of ocean water is salty and it is liquid. So it has the same quality as the ocean. But the drop is very small, where the ocean is infinite. So in the same way, we have all the qualities of the Lord. We are conscious, we are loving, we have intelligence. But we are very, very small. And Krishna is infinite. Right? But because we are spiritual by nature, because we are part and parcel of God, we are not God, but because we are part and parcel of God, we are joyful by nature. We are spiritual by nature. So the simple example of the fish, if you take a fish out of water, no matter what you give the fish, you can give the fish a new iPhone, you can give the fish a beautiful Sprinter motorhome, you can give the fish a promotion, right? An executive position. But the fish will not be happy until you place the fish back in the water. So our practice is to keep ourselves in a spiritual environment. And the easiest way to accomplish that is through sound vibration. Sound is the most powerful means to affect our consciousness. Just like if somebody tells you that they love you, how does that make you feel? Right? Doesn't that make you feel great? You see? So this movement is meant to actually convey the Lord's love. You see? That's where that real happiness lies. You see? In that loving relationship. See, someone might argue with you, oh my, dear devotees, why can't I just love my wife and my kids or my dog? Why Krishna? You see? But the Bhagavatam is explaining that only in our relationship with Krishna can we experience genuine love, real love. All right, let me give you an example. Let's just say for a minute, all of you are the nicest people in the world. Okay, I really mean that too. It is so nice to come here to see all these beautiful flower decorations and the gorgeous deity worship. Really, coming here really makes me feel like I'm at home, and like it makes my desire to return to Krishna grow so much. And to see this project growing, to see all this amazing prasad, to see these beautiful kirtans, and especially to see so many young people. When I joined, I was 17. My Guru Maharaj, he was a leader in this movement. He could have easily ignored me. But he spent so much time with me, and he constantly emphasized to me that the young people are the most important because they are the future of Krishna consciousness. Out of all the different activities that we perform, our educational activities, our outreach to young people is by far the most important. You see? Vedaguya Prabhu and I were talking about Varnashram. And, so there's different concepts of Varnashram. But just to kind of sum it up from my practical experience, I would say that Varnashram means doing what you're good at. If we're going to do something for somebody else, wouldn't it make sense to do what we're good at? So if you're a teacher, educate. If you're a pujari, dress the deities gorgeously. If you're a businessman, raise trillions of dollars. Forget about millions. Doing what we're good at for the pleasure, for the satisfaction of Krishna. So this point about our love and our relationship with Krishna. Okay. Now I was describing all of you as the most wonderful people that I've ever met. Okay? Now let's just say, for example, you work in a corporation. Right? So you go to the office. Now, you're the nicest people in the world. Okay? So you always do more than anyone expects. You're always nice to everybody. You always try to take care and help everyone. But at the end of the month, your supervisor comes and he says, "Oh my God, Prabhus, I am so sorry, I can't pay you." Now remember, you're all the nicest people in the world. What are you going to say? Come on, somebody. What are you going to say? Remember, you're the nicest people in the world. What are you going to say? He really is the nicest guy in the world. Did you hear that? He said it's okay, there's no problem. Okay, let's look at that for a minute. Even if we say that, Even if we say, okay, it's okay, I love you, I love the job, it doesn't matter if you pay me or not. How long can you go on saying that for? He says, as long as they go on telling me I'm the nicest guy in the world, I'll keep doing it. No, we can only do it until we run out of resources. You see? Why? Because we are dependent by nature. This is the difference between us and the Supreme. Krishna is fully independent. He is Swarat. He doesn't require a paycheck from us. In fact, everything is Krishna's energy. Even we are Krishna's energy. Right? Srila Prabhupada, he gives that example of a young woman. A young woman, right? She's very beautiful. But when she gets old, don't get me wrong, she might be a very beautiful person, loving person, right? But her physical beauty is withdrawn from her, even against her will. A young man is very strong, but when he becomes old, he becomes weak and tired. So even our own qualities are Krishna's energy being invested within us. Just like the moonshine is not actually the moonshine, but it's the sun reflected off the moon. So in the same way, everything we see, even our own qualities and abilities, are Krishna's energy being invested within us. But because Krishna is fully independent, you see, He is the only one that can selflessly love someone else. He is the only one who doesn't have to get something from another person to survive. That is God. We are dependent on Krishna. We're dependent on Krishna's mercy at every moment. So for the devotee who loves and serves Krishna, you see, Krishna reveals himself. Materialistic people don't believe this because it's very difficult to worship Krishna when you're materialistic. Because Krishna is not interested. Krishna's only interested in love. So for someone like me coming from the United States, we're raised as materialists. Our whole culture is consumerism. So what should I do, guys? Is there any hope for someone like me? Yes, the hope is all of you and your blessings on me. Srila Prabhupada gives this beautiful story. He gives this story of Kala Krishna Das. You might remember, it's quite a funny pastime. Lord Chaitanya wanted to go to South India, and he was lying to the devotees. He was giving a white lie, saying that my brother had taken sannyas, and he's gone to South India, and I want to go see him. But actually, he had already left his body. But he was telling the devotees that as an excuse. So Nityananda Prabhu told him that, how can you go alone? Who can tolerate this? Let at least 2 or 4 of us go with you. What's going to happen? You know how ecstatic you are. You'll be chanting somewhere, and then you'll fall unconscious, and rogues and thieves are going to take everything you have, and you might even be killed. Nityananda Prabhu was saying, take me. I know all the paths in South India. I can bring you to every temple in South India that you want to go. But Lord Chaitanya, he started to complain about all the devotees. He said, how can I trust you? He was telling Lord Nityananda, right? He said, how can I trust you? He said, you were supposed to send me to Vrindavan, and you ended up sending me back to Navadvip. And on top of it, you broke my danda in half. He said, you know how disturbing this is for somebody that just took sannyas? And he went through each and every devotee, and he was showing his love for those devotees through his criticism of each one of them. So finally, the devotees said, okay, you take this Brahmin, Krishna Das, okay? He won't ask anything from you, right? He's just going to do whatever you say. He's not like one of us, you know? And so Lord Chaitanya agreed. So when they got to South India, you might remember, Lord Chaitanya, they came across a group of gypsy nomads called the Bhattaharis. The Bhattaharis. You don't have to go to South India anymore to see the Bhattaharis. All you got to do is turn your phone on. You can see the Bhattaharis. Right? So the Bhattaharis, Srila Prabhupada explains, they're nomadic people, but they use beautiful women to allure people to take advantage of them, or even to make followers out of them. Now you look at any advertisement today, and what do you see on there? Hey guys, right? So Krishna Das, even though he was a Brahmin, even though he was with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he became attracted by these beautiful women, and in the middle of the night he ran away from Lord Chaitanya and he went to their camp to see them. You see? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he realized what happened, he went after Krishna Das, and he went to the camp of the Bhattaharis, and he said to them, what are you doing? He said, you're also renunciates like me. You're also traveling like me from place to place. Why are you creating so much inconvenience for me, taking away my Brahmin servant like this? And what did the Bhattaharis do? They took up weapons and they went to kill Lord Chaitanya. But as soon as they tried to throw their weapons or hurt Lord Chaitanya, all their weapons turned against them and started chopping them up into pieces, right? And they began screaming and running for their lives. And then Lord Chaitanya grabbed Kala Krishna Das by the hair and dragged him out of there. So when he got back to Jagannath Puri with Kala Krishna Das, he called all the devotees, and then he explained what happened, and he said, look take this Kala Krishna Das, right? I don't want anything to do with him anymore. He said, I was responsible for him when I was traveling, but now that I brought him back here, I don't want anything to do with him. And Kala Krishna Das began to cry. He was crying that he was being rejected by the Lord, right? So then, even though he was crying, Lord Chaitanya didn't care. He got up and he just left him, and he did his noontime duties. So then the devotees took Kala Krishna Das and they began speaking amongst one another what to do. And they realized that they needed someone to go from Jagannath Puri to Navadvip to inform Mother Sachi and Advaita Acharya and all the devotees of Navadvip that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had returned. Because each year they would come and to visit Lord Chaitanya. And they were all feeling so sad. Right? Just like if you come in the temple and the doors are closed. You feel so sad. And then when the doors open, suddenly it's like, it's a different world. So the devotees then engaged Kala Krishna Das in the Lord's servant. And what does Prabhupada write? Prabhupada writes that even though someone might be in the direct association of the Lord, there is every chance he can fall down. So what is his hope? His only hope is the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki! So that's our hope. And that's my hope. I'm going to give you one more example, then I'm going to end here. I had the opportunity to go to this devotee from Kazakhstan. He's the first Kazakhstan devotee, Sachidananda Prabhu. And he's an artist. How many of you know him? Do you know him? Just a few of you know him? Oh my God. I went to his house and he started showing me his artwork, and it was just like an adventure into the spiritual world. So beautiful. He just lives like less than 10 minutes walk from here. If you haven't visited him and seen his artwork, 90% of your life is wasted. But I just saw, he was such a wonderful example. His wife, his son is there. They have a beautiful home. And he's engaging his expertise. That's what I was talking about, doing what we're good at for Krishna. And he was engaging his ability as an artist. And when you see that artwork, it's just unbelievable. Actually, if you look throughout the world, throughout the history of the world, all the greatest achievements of this world were done as acts of devotion for the Supreme Lord. So in our verse today, Prajapati, Daksha, and Narada Muni are being contrasted. I'll give you one other story here, and then I'll end. This incident, this type of incident, it was very prominent when I joined the movement, and that parents, educated parents, like Indradyumna Maharaj, you remember him? He was describing his mother was a research scientist, but she was an atheist. Or Giriraj Maharaj's father was a judge, right? So many of my friends, a number of my friends, their parents sent deprogrammers to take them away from this movement. They were paid professionals that would apprehend the devotees, they would kidnap the devotees, and then they would put them through an indoctrination to again make them materialistic. So one of my godbrothers, his name is Damodar Das, and he's from New York, and he was in Dallas, Texas. This was in 1980, and his mother paid for deprogrammers to come and apprehend him. So 3 big guys, three big, what do you call them here in India? Gundas. 3 big gundas. You know how everybody walks around the temple? So in America, he was outside walking around the temple chanting his japa, and these gundas, they pulled up in a black limousine, and they jumped out, and they tackled him out on the front lawn of the temple, and then they forced him into the car, and then they tied him up, and then they zoomed off with him, right? And so they brought him to an abandoned motel far away from our temple out in the desert in New Mexico. So for 2 days he was with them, and they had him tied to a chair, right? So they had his arms tied and his legs tied. And they were telling him, he told me that the word that they would use again and again is, "You're nothing but a brainwashed zombie." That Prabhupada is telling you everything to do. You don't think for yourself. You're nothing but a brainwashed zombie. And they were telling him, you have to accept Jesus Christ. So this went on for like 2 or 3 days, and then finally his mother arrived from New York, so she comes into the motel, and she's crying, Danny, I'm sorry, Danny. I did this because I love you, Danny. So she was crying, and so Damodar Prabhu, he turned to her and he says, Mom. He said, you don't understand. She says, what happened to you, Danny? What did they do to you, Danny? And she said, Mom, they're telling me to accept Jesus Christ. And then suddenly the mom starts crying, and she gets really angry, and she turns to the deprogrammers and she says, you idiots, we're Jews. She says, Danny, get him loose right now. Get in the car. She said, I'm not paying you a penny. The next day he was back at the temple. We were all laughing about it. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. Thank you, everyone, for your kind attention, for coming today for Srimad Bhagavatam class. I don't know if anyone likes to add anything or comments or questions. I hope that's encouraging to all of you, and it's beautiful service that you're all rendering here. It's so nice to be in your association, and please keep it up. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki, Vrindavan Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Nitai, Gopramanandi. Hare Hare Bol. Shri Radhe.